Hey, and we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from beautiful Blue Ridge, Georgia, and we're at Circuit World here. It is time for Ask the Doc with Dr. William Whaley. We want to thank the Georgia Cancer Specialist associated with Northside Hospital for this segment. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I missed Ray today, though.
Ray? Yes, that was really good. We had Dr. Raymond Tidman with us last week at Dr. Whaley, and it was a great segment. We had the All-Star Medical Panel, right? We had the All-Star Medical Panel. Now, you have a lot of paperwork over there.
Yeah, I do all this paperwork. You know, Ray comes in here with nothing because Ray's an aeronautical engineer, you know. He's you know, when they say that this guy's not a rocket scientist, Ray is a rocket scientist.
Well, see, the thing
with it all the way in the back of his head.
Dr. Tidman knows look, if I just bring a good joke, I'm in and out.
Yeah,
you know, so
I'm an old man. I'm an old man, and I want to be encyclopedic with my answers and be absolutely precise. So
we do want to say we thank you for that, because our viewers over the top, and I know several of you by name that tell me you never miss this segment because you wait to hear Dr. Whaley explain some of these answers. Let's start with three great questions today. I'm thinking of doing a fast with my church. What are the real health concerns with not eating, drinking, drinking only water for 24 hours, 48 hours? Also, is there a healthier way to do this?
Now, that's a multi-pronged question with lots of pathways you can walk down. But if, you know, I'm a student of history, I'd say we have pretty decent history for 5,000 years of human endeavor. There have been just about every social, cultural, religious group has fasting as part of their religion. So the Muslims fast during Ramadan for a month during daylight hours. During certain times of the year, the Jewish people have fasts. Christians generally, when they have a fast and pray, and you'll know that Lincoln called for days of national prayer and fasting in the Civil War for the whole country as a whole. So this isn't a concept that's new, and some of our Christian churches in the United States will have a day of fasting and prayer for some specific purpose generally. And that's safe. There are certain people who should not fast. I mean, children shouldn't fast. Diabetics shouldn't fast. Pregnant and nursing women shouldn't fast. And all the religious fasting laws, like in the Bible and elsewhere, exempt that group of people. They exempt the sick, They exempt the elderly, they exempt the children, they exempt the pregnant, they exempt. So now you're talking about healthy people like you and like I. And yes, a one-day fast is perfectly safe for the group of people who aren't taking high blood pressure medications that might drop their blood pressure if they don't eat, they don't have blood sugar problems and everything else. But most religious fasts really are not 100% calorie restricted or electrolyte restricted. And that's perfectly safe. They may tell you you're not going to eat any food, but you can have Gatorade, or you can have chicken soup or something. But to answer the question first, for a healthy person doesn't meet any of these criteria with medication and disease, 24-hour fasting is safe. Interestingly enough, there's been a lot of research on every other day fasting as a way of weight loss. And in that every other day fasting, what they allow is about 20% of normal calories as liquids on fasting day that would have electrolytes in it. So if you just make a mental picture of the broth off a chicken noodle soup or Gatorade as one of the fluids, then there are people who would recommend that for 30 days you fast every other day. It'd be 15 days of fasting out of 30. So that obviously is safe for the people that the physician recommends it for, if that makes any sense. Then they talk about doing it for 48 hours. If you get into the second day, then as soon as you get to about 16 or 18 hours, the body goes into ketosis. Now, it doesn't mean anything to you, but when you're doing a fast for weight reduction, you actually check your urine with a stick to make sure that you are in ketosis, which means you're in an acidotic state that burns fat more rapidly than normal, and it accelerates your metabolic loss of calories. Now, lastly, this talking about healthy people who are going fasting, a lot of us are regulars at the gym, and on a day of fast, you ought not do heavy exercise. Stay out of the gym, don't go hiking, and don't do your jogging. So without going into any of there's hundreds of other pathways they opened up there in that question. Like, is there a healthier way to do it? I guess you'd say the way that you do the every other day fast, where you're allowed 20% of calories and electrolytes, is the healthiest way. It is still a fast. You've got a great cut and you're not eating anything, and mostly what you're drinking is Gatorade or chicken soup broth. So there's a healthier way to do it. It's healthy for people that aren't diabetic, pregnant, and all the rest of those things I said. And it's part of our culture and has been for 5,000 years, whether you're Hindu or you're Buddhist or you're Muslim or whether you're Christian. Every religion that we know of has had fasting as part of it.
Well, you know, and I like to remember exactly what you said, where children, expecting mothers, elderly like diabetic, health issues.
Are we elderly? I don't know whether we would fit that or not. I mean, we might even fit that ourselves. I'm elderly. I'm 78. I can fast in a heartbeat. Anyway, go ahead.
Moving right along.
Wait a minute. I think one more thing that's
Turn my hearing aid up.
Okay, I think one more thing that's important when we're talking about Trump this morning and talking about Giuliani. As I began this by saying that Abraham Lincoln called for days of fasting during the Civil War for the nation as a whole to pray for the Union. I really forgot that George Washington and the Revolutionary Congress called for days of fasting. So when you're talking about a country like this one, this doesn't have to necessarily be a Christian church doing it for some purpose. I mean, he can do this thing for the whole blinking nation. I don't think it would hurt us one little bit to have a day of contemplation, prayer, and fasting, shut down all the movie theaters, turn off every television set for 24 hours, and let people contemplate the doggone country as a whole. And those that pray, pray, and those that don't pray, meditate, or do whatever you do. But don't have a movie you can go to, shut off the video games, and the chances that are happening are slim and none. But anyhow, when I was thinking about this...
No, I actually love that idea, because they push us to hear and see and force all this stuff on us that, you know, if we just took a day and shut everything off, focus on the country, time of peace.
Focus on the family. I mean, I don't care. Or focus on your plants. Focus on something that's not on a video game. Anyway.
All right, moving right along. We are going into, won't be long, it'll be summer. You'll be out there and you'll be on the boat. I know it's only 30-some degrees this morning, but it's just around the corner that you're on the boat, jet skis, whatever it may be. And this next question is very important. Comes to us from a viewer asking the question, I heard somewhere that a sunburn doubles your chances for skin cancer. Fact or fiction?
Absolutely fact. There's a great article that came out of Great Britain. Now, Great Britain, people are Anglo-Saxon, lightly complected like us, I mean, like me and you. And they generally don't have a whole lot of sun in Great Britain, except for 2 days a year, that winter and 4th of July. But the sunburn as infrequent as every 2 years. One sunburn every 2 years.
Every 2 years. Okay.
One sunburn every 2 years increases your chances of getting malignant melanoma by about 900%. 9 out of every 10 malignant melanomas in Great Britain occur in people who have had repeated sunburn, and there's 1 that will occur out of every 10 in people who have not. So doubling your chances for skin cancer, put melanoma over here, that's a really much higher. Now what they're actually asking when they ask about skin cancer is, you'll remember I came in here not too long ago with a big old hole in my head. I had 7 skin biopsies in 2016, and 4 of the 7 were malignant. And I had 5 biopsies in 2017, and 3 of the 5 were malignant. Well, when I was 8.5 years old, I started cutting grass for a quarter of a lawn with no shirt. And from 8.5 years old until I got out of medical school, every summer I worked some kind of construction job with no shirt. And, that's been 50 years ago. And I'm still having skin cancers from it. So it does way more than doubles. Let's say it makes it 6 times greater, 8 times greater to have repeated sunburn. And 1 real bad sunburn does increase about 50% or doubling your chances of having a cancer in the future.
What kind of sunscreen? I mean, we hear, well, if we want a tan, we want an SPF, a lower one, or we want...
You don't want a tan. Basically, you don't want a tan. If you want a tan, there's a for-profit place right across from the filling station up here where you can go in there and stand on 2 blocks with your hands out like this, and they got a machine that does you like a car wash and does a spray can thing on you. And then if the budget's not so good, you can buy this stuff that you rub on, and I don't know much about it, but that stuff doesn't hurt your skin. It's as good or more even tan than you can get lying out in the sun. But you do not want a tan. You do not want to go to a tanning bed. And you want to put on sun protective factor 35 or above. And if you're lightly complected with light eyes like me, or like your medical panel or Bruce over there, you've got to use 50 or 50. You want one that's water resistant. And if you just look at Consumer Reports, those really expensive brands are terrible, and a lot of the drugstore brands are great, so you don't have to spend a ton of money to get it. But you ought to put that stuff on your face every day, year-round, and I should too, and I don't, but I do put it on my face year-round from now till about October.
All right, I want to ask you a question, Conley. I want to stay on this for a second, if you'll allow me that opportunity, because while we're talking about the sun, because we're getting ready to go into the summertime where we're out and about, and it's a lot of fun being out there, but our health is, we got to pay attention. Does the skin, now although I'm only about 38, but is that funny? Does the skin react different to the sun the older you get?
Within the limits imposed by the fact that it's getting aged, no. In other words, the damage that's done to nice young, well-hydrated, smooth skin is to the underlying cells, not the surface. And our skin looks a little bit wrinkled and a little bit red, and it's still going to the cells beneath the surface. So the damage is the same. It's the same mechanism.
Okay. Moving right along, because I could stay on that because, I'll just say like this. 8 years old, summertime, we only knew there was one drawer. It was the short drawer. We did wear shorts. So we would go in, grab a pair of shorts. We had no shoes on, no shirt on, and out the door we went and played all day long. Never thought about what sunscreen we needed, and we turned a little tan.
And you came home at the end of at dusk when the fireflies were
exactly
lightning bugs were going up,
and now
you entertained yourself in the creek by playing World War II or Cowboys and Indians or something. You didn't have a cell phone and you didn't have a tablet, and there wasn't any internet, and television was Howdy Doody and the Lone Ranger, and we were a lot better off.
I was actually staying focused on the sun on my skin, but right. I like where you went. Yes, Bruce, if it's a must.
Where do most malignant melanomas appear? On the head?
No, they're everywhere. Trunk.
Okay.
Trunk.
So you're going to exposure here,
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Okay, I could stay on that. Thank you very much. That was so helpful, and we hope it was helpful to you out there. Our last question this morning, are there particular vitamins that are more important than others in fighting against cancer? I don't have cancer, but many in my family have had it, so I'm wondering if I should be taking a more B12 or something like that.
No. Simple answer to that question is no, but I'm going to be a lot more encyclopedic about it because I think this is important. It's a great question. People don't really understand a whole lot about nutrition, vitamin supplementation, and the what was the word Ray used for it the other day, that the nutritional pharmaceutical industry, we were the, anyway, he had a phrase for it. Some vitamins, A, vitamin C, and vitamin E, in supplemental doses have been linked to an increase in cancer, not a decrease in cancer. Selenium has been linked to an increase in cancer. Now, everybody just about in the United States is vitamin D deficient because we're trying to stay out of the sun and we're not drinking milk. And supplemental vitamin D in reasonable amounts, 1,000 units a day or even less, has a weak statistical link at preventing some sorts of cancer. So the only one that really has a bit of statistical information about it would be a modest dose of D. Now, the idea that we need vitamins at all is if we're eating that kind of diet, we talk about the Mediterranean diet or the 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day or whatever, you don't need any vitamins. But people who just feel compelled in their head, I've got to do something to make sure my nutrition's adequate, there is no harm whatsoever except the cost to the pocketbook for a generic, I wouldn't buy the brand name, multiple vitamin made by a real pharmaceutical company available in any drug department of a grocery store or a drugstore. And one multiple vitamin a day will give you enough of the RDA, and we'll come to that here in a minute, of everything in your diet, including molybdenum and copper and stuff you've never even heard of. And that brings up the labels that you find on vitamins. First one, like RDA. People say, what the heck is that? Recommended daily allowance. And it'll say in there that this vitamin, multiple vitamin, will give you this percentage of the recommended daily allowance. Well, where there are vitamins that don't have that determination made by science and the FDA, they've got another label called AI, which is adequate intake. So it'll say this gives you 28% or 70% of the recommended daily allowance. Then when it starts getting down into the molybdenum and stuff, it'll say AI, adequate intake. And then there are, when you start doing any research on how much vitamin should I be taking, you'll find one that's called UC, which is the maximum tolerated dose. And if you take more than that, you're going to get sick. And then you'll find one called the daily value, which is what you get out of your food. So it's real, it can get really confusing if you get all hung up on it. So at the end of the day, the answer was no. You can take too much and get in trouble with A, E, K, iron, selenium, and C, like we said last week. So you could take too much of that. And if you feel you're compelled to take something, a over-the-counter vitamin D, a multiple vitamin, and you got all you ever need, and it's not too expensive.
Thank you. That was pretty precise and direct, no, it's very clear.
The only thing that might have any prevention for cancer is that tiny bit of D, but the rest of it will kind of shut up your worry about your nutritional state.
Well, I like how you always come back to is taking a vitamin. You can put your diet together to where you get all the vitamins.
Exactly. If you take that 5 servings of fruit and vegetables a day, and you eat any kind of piece of meat, I don't care if it's a piece of chicken or a piece of fish or 1 egg or whatever, you don't have to worry about taking a bunch of vitamins. Now, there's some fad diets out there I'm not going to get into. But they basically are the healthy American diet, the way they teach it to you in school and they advertise it all the time, is you'll be fine.
Anything you've put together as a closing statement or close something, a comment subject?
I think it's something that's kind of important because it's hit our geography. Back when I used to do my radio program, there was an epidemic of foodborne illness with prepackaged foods. And we had food recall all through the North Georgia region. It's been 8-10 years ago. And there were epidemics of salmonella and E. coli that occurred in our community. 207 million eggs, as you may have read, have been recalled because of salmonella contamination. And if you look at the map of the states they're supposed to have gone to, these eggs were produced in South Carolina. But the distribution did not include Georgia on the map. And there are people in Fannin County who were pulled off the lot numbers of those eggs, and they have been purchased in Fannin County. So you would want to go on the internet or something, see what those lot numbers are. They are here. There have been no cases of salmonella in Fannin County. Now, there's a serious epidemic going around the country now from prepackaged romaine lettuce that's chopped and is in the package you buy in the grocery store. It'll be identified as having been made in Yuma, Arizona. And any of it that you've got, you ought to take back to the store and throw away. And as the CDC says, even if you've opened it and you've had a salad out of it and nobody got sick, you still should throw it away or take it back to the store, because it's infected with the E. coli. You just love those flus, the H2 flu and the H7 flu. Okay, this E. coli is the O157H7 strain, and it causes at least 1 out of every 4 people to get kidney failure, hemolytic anemia, and liver failure. And this is one of the ones that kills you. Lots of other E. coli just makes you sick, and you say, I got food poisoning and I had vomiting and diarrhea for 12 or 24 hours and I got better. So we really don't know how many people have had it, but the number that have been hospitalized serious enough to get to the CDC is somewhere around 100. And they're scattered in state. None of them have occurred in Georgia, but states up toward the middle Atlantic and over as far as California have it. So if you've got any chopped romaine lettuce at home, turn it over there. If it says it was made in Arizona, throw it away or take it back.
Thank you, Dr. Whaley. I appreciate you. I appreciate you every Friday, and I know our viewers do. And I know you look forward to his answers every Friday on these questions. If you have a question for Dr. Whaley, you send that to info at fetchernews.com. Send it to info@fetchernews.com. Put in the subject, Ask the Doc, and we will get Dr. Whaley the question. And he will, if he can't get it on the show, he does respond. He'll send you an email or us an email, something to get back to you as far an answer, whatever you may ask. So send that to us. We want to thank the Georgia Cancer Specialist affiliated with Northside Hospital. We thank you for this segment every week, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, Ray next week.
Ray?
Yeah.
Okay. Look forward to Dr. Raymond Tidman next week. And as soon as we get back, the new biggest hit, the biggest duo in the land. I mean, you've heard of Diamond and Silk. There was Abbott and Costello. There was Martin and Lewis. But only here will you get Rhinestone and Burlap right after these messages.